innocent folk to die.
By these 50 countries, differing so much in race and religion, in language and culture.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Well, I know they're lying. They tricked me once, but they're not going to trick me twice. The time is now. Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn, your host. Glad to be with you as always on this Tuesday night, August 19th, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time for this premiere. Land of 10,000 Lakes, the Minnesota Consensus. I'm a Minnesotan, born and raised here. If you are a new viewer or listener, well, welcome. Glad you're here. We're going to try to get you to stay, be part of this political community. We are a political action community that, we try to have a little fun. We try to get a little bit of knowledge shared, a little bit of wisdom shared. I'm learning from you. I really appreciate all of the comments and the feedback. Shout out to Skinny and Stalio, who were so present in my life these past few days. Really appreciate you guys, your viewership, your listenership, and it's so much. The people that come to the live chat and leave comments and hit the like button on YouTube really helps. I mean, we're not getting any help from YouTube, and we're trying to build a political community, an action community. If you're watching on Royce's X, thank you. Got a big audience over on Royce's X. Hey, we're over on YouTube. Stop on by. Leave a like, leave a comment. Those things help. They matter. Repost the links to this podcast. We're going to grow this one person at a time. And there's a lot of new people coming in. And thank you. If you're a first-time viewer or first-time listener, we're going to try to make it interesting enough for you so that you stay and be part of what we're trying to do. And what are we trying to do? What we're trying to do is be Americans. And even more importantly, if you're international, because we have a lot of international people that participate here, we're trying to be Republicans. Not as in the Republican Party of the United States, but I mean in terms of republicanism, the philosophy thereof, self-governance, self-determination, self-reliance, self-regulation, self-preservation, self-control, self-defense. It's a lot about me. And I don't mean me. It means when I'm responsible for my own everything, the government's going to shrink down. To the extent that I'm not responsible for my own everything, the government is going to fill the void. And we've learned here in the United States, here in Minnesota, here in Hennepin County, where I live, the government's got a lot of problems. Fraud, waste, abuse, overreach, unresponsive to the needs of the citizens. We've tried an experiment here in the United States for decades, since the 60s, since Lyndon Baines Johnson, president, after President Kennedy was assassinated, then reelected in 1964, Lyndon Baines Johnson created what was called the Great Society. In other words, government was going to step in and solve all of our problems. And we've had this experiment my entire life, and I will give you my personal review of the project. F minus. F minus. And what do I base that on? I base that on the well-being of the American people. The well-being of the American people, well, we have a lot of improvement that we can make together as a community. How are we going to do it? Well, the first step for me is political activity. So, if you're in Minnesota, and you can do this throughout the country, this is a model for every state. We practice something here in Minnesota called the precinct strategy. Here's my idea, and you got to think big, or as they said in the Patriot, aim small, miss small. I want every single American citizen who is of voting age to be involved in politics. And why do I say that? Because it's your right as an American citizen. It is your duty to participate but we don't talk about duty very much. That's kind of, people don't like to hear about duties, responsibilities. They just want to know what's in it for them. Well, actually, as a Republican, and I don't mean the party, I mean living as a Republican, I am the sovereign of my own life. I'm my own king. I make my own decisions for my own future, for my own life on a second by second basis. I am free to do what I think I want to do. I'm going to do like I want to do. Hey, that's what we do here. We're Republicans. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't like that. Well, how am I going to maintain that? I'm going to have to practice the art of politics to maintain my freedoms. And how we do that here, this precinct strategy, the precinct is the smallest unit of geographical political organization in our country. It's your neighborhood, where you live. So the first question I ask myself, good morning, Tanner.
Good morning.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty
Do
good.
you know your neighbors?
Just a couple of them.
Just a couple of them.
Yeah, I live in a whole apartment complex, so I know the
Man,
ladies across the across the hallway and the gentleman next to me.
do you talk to them?
Yeah, sometimes I'll
Cool.
say what's up.
Making friends with them?
Yes,
Getting to be neighbors.
yes, and I've told them, knock if you need any help.
Right. Well, that's how you build a political community. I'll give you a perfect example. A friend of mine, and not really a friend, an associate, we don't see each other very much. In fact, not at all for a long time. But he was moving. And from a big house. I mean, he had a big house. Had kids. They'd lived there a long time. He said, "Man, I'm moving." I said, "You are?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm going to come over and help you move." He was stunned that I offered that. But that's how you practice republicanism. You help your neighbors. There's still communities to this day that get together and build barns together. It's the Amish, but the Amish, interestingly, have the lowest incidence of disease and some of the best longevity of any subgroup in our culture. I don't know. Maybe neighborliness has something to do with it. Maybe being willing to give over to someone else's needs has something to do with it. For example, we've said this, I'll say it again because I think it's appropriate. If I'm not for myself, who will be? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? And this is Republican, Republican. So we have these precincts. It's my neighbor, my neighborhood. And I know my neighbors. I walk in my neighborhood. I stop and talk to them. Sometimes I start talking about politics. I've actually been walking in. Did I tell you the story? I was walking in my neighborhood and a guy walked out of his house and started walking at me. And I thought to myself, okay, what kind of scam is this going to be? Because he was aggressively moving to cut me off. I
Yeah,
had my headphones on. I looked at the guy, it wasn't very threatening. I mean, it's not like I perceived it to be a physical threat, but I'm thinking, why is this guy coming out of his house and chasing me down? So I took my headphones off and I said, "Hey, man, what's up?" He goes, "Are you Professor Penn?" That actually happened in my neighborhood. It's
that'd
cool,
be
huh?
wild.
It's crazy. Yeah, I got people walking up to me in stores, and I mean, that's my road. I don't say it has to be your road. I would be what's called a hyperpolitical activist, but in my neighborhood, I need to organize my neighbors because we have something we do here in Minnesota. We're what's called a caucus state. Now, every state is different. So you can go to the precinctstrategy.com, a site put together by Dan Schultz, and take a look at how things work in your state. But here in Minnesota, we have caucuses. What is a caucus? It's a community meeting. That's just a word for a community meeting. And if you're watching me in Minnesota, how you get involved in politics, I mean, really involved. I don't mean watching Fox News. I don't mean watching the news and being pissed off. That's not politics. That's entertainment. That's having your emotions roiled by a system that is expert in triggering your emotions, because if you can trigger a person's emotions, you might be able to control them. No, I'm not talking about being controlled. I'm talking about entering into the game and playing it. the difference between being a spectator and a participant. I'm into citizen participation. So we're gonna go to caucus in, February of 2026, and you can actually get elected by your neighbors to be the representative of your precinct in a political process, which we'll talk about more in the weeks and months to come. Now, to organize my neighborhood, we had a meeting this past this past Wednesday night at a local restaurant called Devani's on Highway 7 here in Minnetonka, Minnesota, where I live, my area. And we had about 35 or 40 people show up, and they rolled in. We just sent out an email and said, "We're organizing. Will you show up?" And damn, they showed up.
You had 35 people?
I think we had like 30, 35 people. Yeah.
That's awesome. Because when you were first telling me that, you were like, honestly, I feel like only 6 are gonna show up."
I didn't think anybody was going to be there. People came from as far away as Faribault, Minnesota.
Seems like people actually care about this. This is
Well, we're
awesome.
gonna get this going. We're gonna have another meeting in 2 weeks. I'm gonna send out an email to the people that showed up and then to the whole email list, and we're gonna get together again. We're gonna get together every 2 weeks. And here's the point. It's a model for what you can do in your own backyard, in your precinct, in your Senate district, in your neighborhood. We gotta start getting the people involved. Why do I say the people involved? Well, look at the outcomes. Yeah, okay, if you're President Trump fantastic. I got nothing negative to say about your love of President Trump. But if we think that the changes we need to maintain our freedoms are going to come from the top down from President Trump and sustainably affect our neighborhoods, we are dreaming. That is a dream. The change that I want, the change that I see, the change that I hope for, that I'm working for is going to come from each individual citizen. A change in their consciousness, a change in their emotions, a change in their intent, that they love this country, that they're looking for a commonality of purpose with all the citizens of the state of Minnesota, all the citizens of the country of the United States. And guess what they are? We know what they are. We know what they are. We know what brings us all together: red, white, black, brown, yellow, man, woman, child. And here's what they are. We know what they are. And I want to thank Robert Atkins, my friend, who works with me politically. He codified this, he broke it down. I have called this the politics of well being. We,
Hmm.
that's what we're practicing here, the politics of well being. But that's a little amorphous. We need something a little more succinct. Food freedom. In other words, we want the freedom to choose our own food, and we want healthy foods to choose from. Economic freedom, economic freedom, economic liberty, the ability to earn a good living, to be sustainable, independent, free. Religious freedom, obviously, obviously, and medical freedom. These are the 4 freedoms that Americans agree on. I'm going to read them again to you. Food freedom, economic freedom, religious freedom, medical freedom. Freedoms to choose to live our lives the way I want to live it. The way I live mine is not going to be the way you live yours, and that's cool. I don't want to tell you what to do with your economic life or your
The
what to
food.
eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every there's a funny it's really a funny line. It's actually humorous, but it's true. We're all snowflakes. First of all, we're fragile and we're all different. And what they do is they want, when I say they, I mean this hegemonic system that educates us from K through 12 and then, into post secondary school that tells us, how we're supposed to be. And I've always had a hard time with that. There's different kinds of people. I've always been very rebellious. And why do I rebel? Because I don't fit in very good. I just don't fit in very good. I can fake it. I can fake it to make it, but it grinds on me. I don't like it. I don't like the way things are. Kind of like that scene in The Matrix at the beginning where Morpheus is talking to Neo and he goes, "It's like a splinter in your mind." It's like that's how I feel. It's like a splinter in my mind. It can't be like this. It can't. I mean, I've been feeling this since I've been a teenager. This can't be right. It can't be right, for example, that countries are organized in opposition to each other and that we're at war continuously in this country. Continuous war, continuous forever war. This can't be right. This has been going on since the Vietnam War when I was, a teenager. I was worried about getting drafted. The war ended just before it was my time to go. So I missed it. But I was worried about it. And it, it's been never ending. A never ending war. Can't be right. Why is that? And why is my whole state, why is my whole city, why is my whole country set up on a war footing? What is with this technology? I was talking to Tanner before we came to record this. Tanner was up north
Mhm.
this past weekend in the woods,
Yep.
right?
Correct.
I know he was up in the woods because he did not return a text for the entire weekend.
The phone's on airplane mode and only used for cameras when it's up there.
Right. I mean, he just like disconnects from the technological. How many of us can do that? I mean, how many of us can just say, I'm out. I'm going off grid for a few days, or maybe for a few months, or maybe permanently. Well, I mean, this person who goes off grid now is going to be thought of as being a weirdo, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's also terrifying because how do you participate in society going off grid? You know?
Do you know I didn't get my first cell phone until I was in my 50s?
Wow. That's crazy. I had my first cell phone when I was 12.
Do you know, I tell the story. It's a funny story for the new um, listeners and viewers. Thank you for being here. Please repost the links. I was religiously opposed to social media. I mean, religiously opposed. I didn't have any social media up till 2022, till December 2022, when Royce White looked at me and he said, "Man, do you know what we could do with a podcast studio?" And I said, "Royce, what's a podcast?" You know, I mean, I have not been, I would not say that I am a Luddite, a good word for you to look up. I'm not anti science and I'm not anti technology, but for my own personal interest, uh, well, it's not me. So why am I doing it? Politics. This is how we get organized. So I'm going to send out another email soon to all of you that attended. I want, if you're in Minnesota, like Tucker, drive on up, brother. We'd love to see you. I'd like to shake your hand. It's not that far of a drive. People came from Faribault. People came from all over. Tanner, you're invited. We're going to get together. We're going to put some pizzas on the table, and we're going to we're going to sit and talk about organizing our neighborhoods. Pure political action, strategy and tactics. We don't need to talk about the issues at these kind of meetings. We know things are screwed up. I'm thankful that right now we have President Trump, and I know President Trump has got a lot of flat spots for a lot of people, including me. But right now, I watch what he's doing, and I want to see some outcomes before I become a critic. People are so quick to criticize. Yes, there are lots of things I'm not happy about. But am I happy that he had Zelensky in the White House yesterday and they're talking about bringing this awful European war to an end? Yeah, I'm very happy about it. It kind of outweighs some of the other issues. Let's get some of these big problems solved, and then we'll go back and work on some of these other big problems. We had a meeting, was great. Uh, And then I'm working with Royce doing the Hebrews property. For those of you who are new, Royce White, candidate for Senate here in Minnesota, and I have a property here on Free People Radio called Hebrews. And Royce called me last Friday. He said, "Let's do a Hebrews Spaces on X last Friday night." It was completely unplanned. I think he told me at 4 o'clock we were going to do it at 6. So we showed up together. We put it off for 1 hour because there was a Nothing Burger press conference with President Trump and President Putin. We'll talk about that downstream a bit. We put it off. We got on at 7 o'clock. There was really not a lot of promotion. If Royce would promote this, I'm sure we could get hundreds of people coming to his X Spaces because he's got hundreds of thousands of followers. And we had this Spaces, and there was a couple of interesting events that happened there. One thing that I want to comment on, there is a person, I don't know if it's a man or a woman, can't tell. Feels like a woman, but then that's my feeling. And when you're talking a digital feeling, there's a lot of men these days that feel like women to me. That's just my generation, not a criticism. Goes with the handle HotDish Hot Takes. This person alleges to be an officer, a BPOU member, a political party activist in the Republican Party of Minnesota. And this person dogs me. And I think it's a woman. I don't know. It could be a man. I don't know. And if you think about this, when I say something like this, from my generation, and you're going to say you don't ever met the person, you're talking about a feel through a digital medium. That's what's lost now is our feelings. This whole digital World Wide Web thing, this whole immersion in the unreal blunts, truncates our ability to feel. And our ability to feel is very, very important for our well being. That's why we have feelings. People are going to say, oh, I'm emotional. Yes, when you live in the comfort of your home, safe from predators, your feelings become something different. But when you're out in the woods hunting, you're using your feelings, aren't you?
Yeah.
You like that, don't you?
Yeah. I like living that way.
You like that on the edge kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna send you down, for a bonus trip as being a when we start making some money here, and we're not doing it yet. By the way, let's remember the feeling thing. We're gonna come back to it. You know how we're gonna get into the break-even position here at Free People Radios the next time you buy tires. The very next time. Or when your kids buy tires, or when your spouse, your coworkers, your neighbors. Tell them, please go to TireGet.com. TireGet.com. That is one of our engines for fueling Free People Radio and the Professor Penn podcast. Please call me crazy. Heroes and other properties that we're developing. TireGet is an online e-commerce retailer. 11 different brands. They're all at the right price. When I say the right price, I've been in the tire business my entire adult life. I know a deal. I created it to be a deal. It's the best way to buy tires in these great United States of America, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, it's e-commerce, so you're not going to waste time sitting around in a tire store. Number two, you get great customer service and a great warranty, something you're not going to get from a lot of these other organizations because I have my sacred honor involved in my tire business. Price is right. Service is right. We can put the tires on and balance them 5 minutes from your house, no matter where you live. So the next time you buy tires, buy them from TireGet and help this station, Free People Radio, grow. So the feelings that you get being out in the woods, being on the edge, doing athletics, anything that's high intensity, we are genetically created with those feelings to enhance the likelihood of preferred behavioral outcomes. In other words, we survive. But when we go into this unreal world, our feelings become blunted, less potent. And when I say I can't feel if this is a man or a woman, I don't know if it's because my feelings aren't working or because it could be a man masquerading as a woman. And I suspect that's the case. I suspect it's a man masquerading as a woman. That's just my suspicion. Because in the X spaces, Royce White was reading the very caustic and critical comments Hot Dish Hot Takes was putting into the live chat. And he said, Hot Dish, you got so much to say. The mic's all yours. Step up to the mic and tell us what you think. And you know what happened?
Silence.
Silence. Silent. Not a word. Hot Dish, You are a coward, a coward, and you are a paid chaos agent. I went to your X page and I saw a tremendous amount of critical things there about Royce White, almost as if somebody is paying you to do that. So you're either bent out of shape like a pretzel because you're putting this much time into dogging Royce White, or you're on somebody's payroll to do it. How am I supposed to know? You wouldn't step up to the mic, which means you are meaningless. You're not a real person. I suspect you might not even be in the Republican Party because if you're in the party, you tell me you don't have the courage to step on up to the mic and say, I'm David Penn and I'm on BPOUXYZ. I mean, if you don't have the courage to do that, which just bookmark that because we're going to come back to that, the land of 10,000 lakes, the Minnesota consensus, the tonight's episode theme. You're so critical of Royce, so critical. And then I look at your page. Do you know what Hot Dish was defending? Are you ready?
Hmm.
Dr. Anthony Fauci
Oh,
actually defended Dr. Fauci on her page or his page.
interesting.
And I just have to, yes, very interesting. Not a very Republican position, or at least the kind of Republican Party that I am participating in, that I want to see become potent, because medical freedom, that got suspended during very recently, was suspended. And we're not into that kind of suspension. We're not into that. We're into freedom, freedom, not determinism. And that's what this Republican Party that I'm working on giving birth to is all about. The greater the freedom, the smaller the government. The greater the freedom, the more the self-governance. That's not your thing, is it, Hot Dish? That's not your thing. You're in that L7. You know, was you were up there in peak summertime in northern Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
It was overwhelmingly beautiful, wasn't it?
Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah.
Were you in the lakes, the woods? What were you portaging? What were you doing up there?
A little bit of everything. So we were going cricks fishing. We rented some canoes, so we portaged a little bit. Went on some hikes. Me and my friends, we really like nighttime hikes. So that was something that was really fun.
Feelings.
Oh yeah.
Oh, feelings.
Pitch
Nighttime.
dark in the
Oh,
woods.
you got some feelings working there, or down the hole you go.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. I like to put myself on the edge there, I guess.
Oh, we're going to let you do that in Texas. We're
Y-
going to add snakes and wild pigs to the equation. It really ups the ante on that nighttime hiking.
I'm looking forward to that. I hope you're serious about that.
I'm very serious about. As I was saying, please go buy your tires from TireGet so we can break even and we can send Tanner on a junket. That'd be really great.
Yeah.
But that beauty, that northern Minnesota beauty. You know, I live in Congressional District 3 here in Minnesota, close to Lake Minnetonka. I'm not in the wealthy part of the neighborhood. I'm on the wrong side of the tracks, so to speak. In fact, across the street from my house, it's SD 42 in Plymouth, which, if you know anything about Minnesota, Plymouth gets into some very modest incomes. So I'm right there on that border. But I'm 5 minutes driving time from Lake Minnetonka, 7 or 8 minutes driving time from Lake Minnetonka. And that beauty that you see in northern Minnesota, it's right in Lake Minnetonka. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, the sky is blue, the air is crisp, the water looks pure. I'm not saying that it is.
Those damn zebra mussels.
Right. You got just fantastic woods. Man, I was driving in this morning right by the studio, and there was some deer right in the road, right down the block from the studio.
Yeah.
I mean, we're living in the natural environment. The appeal of Minnesota, I mean, the real appeal of it to me is its nature is just Minnesota's not spoiled. The nature is so strong here. It's so beautiful. The land of 10,000 lakes. It's fantastic. And we have a lot of people who came into this culture, into this state from Northern Europe. For example, where are your forebears from, Mr. Tanner?
Norway and Germany.
Norway and Germany.
Yep.
Perfect. Might have some. I'm not going to say her last name, but it is kind of a giveaway
Yeah, a
on
little
this, right?
bit. Yeah.
A little bit, right? Uh, these are people that came from similar natural environments. Northern Europe has a lot of similarities with Minnesota, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. That more like pine tree jungle type of thing. I don't know how to explain it really well.
Pine tree jungle.
That's what I always
That's a great one. Makes me think of Bob Marley's song Concrete Jungle.
Yeah.
But this is the pine tree jungle.
Yeah.
It's just great,
When
right?
you get up north, it's like you understand how people get lost. You start walking off trail and it's just thick of trees. You're walking on nothing but deadfall and it's a pine tree jungle. It's the only way I can explain it.
Pine tree jungle. Right. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. So, the people that came here came from Northern Europe and they came from a culture. Now, we have a lot of people here now. We just had Muhammad Amin on,
Yeah.
came from Somalia. We're not homogeneous like we were when I was Tanner's age. When I was Tanner's age, this state, hey, as a Jewish American, I stood out in a crowd. Now, hey, I pass. And Royce says, "Quit larping like a white man," because we have so many new people that have come into the state from so many other places. I went with Royce actually this past Saturday afternoon to the opening of a Vietnamese history exhibit at the Minnesota Historical Museum.
I want to go there so bad.
Oh, it was great. I mean, we were in a room. It was mostly Vietnamese people, people that had actually come here from Vietnam in the boat exodus from Vietnam in the mid 70s. I remember that. There's hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese and Hmongs that, Hmongs, another group that came after the Vietnam War. We have a great way here in the United States of tearing up people's countries. And then the folks that we have on our payroll, we let them come in. We let them come in. We got the Vietnamese, all these people that came over here, they were not communists. They were working with us. And, they had two choices, get out or die. So, of course, they came here. The Hmongs, the same thing. The Somalis, we let Somalis come from a war-torn region. And we found out from Muhammad Amin that the United States was very involved in a Cold War competition with the Soviets over Somalia.
Mhm.
We'll have the Somalians come in. We've got Afghanis coming in. Nay, verily, may I say it? There's a movement to have the Palestinians come to Minnesota.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. Could you imagine? We pick up about, I don't know, 300,000 Gazans to round out our international population here in Minnesota. Yeah,
Imagine how much of a culture shock. Like, I'm just imagining someone that grew up in Palestine going to upper Minnesota. How much of a culture shock that has to be.
it is a big, well, it's like bringing Vietnamese Hmongs. I mean, I've been to Vietnam, okay? In December, it's hot, really hot. In July, it's even hotter. And then they put these people, they plunk them down in the tundra. And you got to ask yourself, man, how did that work for you folks? I mean, that's crazy,
You're like,
right?
"What are all those houses doing on the lakes? What is that?"
Right. What are these lakes all about?
Yeah.
Right? So, these people come, and so we have a very heterogeneous culture now relative to when I grew up. But these people that came from Northern Europe, which are the predominant, still our predominant culture here, they came out of a natural environment. They came out of a four seasons environment. Hey, you know what? Here in Minnesota, at wintertime, I mean, real winter, like when it's, I don't know, 25, 30 below zero with the wind chill, there's not a lot of time for arguing. If we're outside in that kind of environment, you know what you're thinking about? Survival. Now, I know people, I got somebody in my office, Carrie. You
Mm.
know Carrie.
Yep.
She get in her car and come to the office. It's 8 below zero. She doesn't even put a jacket. She doesn't even wear a jacket. And I say to her, baby, you are really taking a lot for granted here. Because like when wintertime comes for me, I put a parka in my back seat, candles, you know, I mean, because you never know. when the ass is gonna fall off the donkey.
Yeah.
And I don't wanna freeze to death. That's not a fun way to go. Have you ever been stranded in a car?
No.
I have. Oh,
That's
it's a thrill.
scary.
It's a thrill.
Yeah.
It's a thrill. So, when you're here and you grow up in a culture like in Norway or Sweden or Northern Europe, Northern Germany, where you really have an intense winter, it really cuts down on the arguing because there's just no time for arguing because you gotta survive. Survival, of course, drives all culture. Culture, we could say, is actually a survival strategy. But where you are talks about, how hard you gotta work on surviving. Like if you're growing up in Palestine, in a cat litter box. It's not that easy to survive
No.
if you're growing up in the desert.
Yeah.
Makes you hard.
I think about it that they're just screwed they can't do any type of gardening. That's what always, like, baffles me, that they're in a survival situation where, like, it isn't even a means of, "Well, I just need to go get these seeds and try to grow something." It's purely dependent on food aid coming in, you know? So
Well,
it's a very different survival mind state, I guess.
there is places to grow food in the Tigris and Euphrates. I mean, there's rivers and there is very fertile, the Nile. There's very fertile areas in the Middle East, but there's a lot of sand and a
Yeah.
lot of places that are not what they call arable. So
Yeah.
there is this element of, and they study this. My stepson was talking about it. I think they called it human geography. Where we are has a lot to do with how our culture informs our behavior. We're informed by our culture. I'm not making this up. I've been programmed by culture. And here in Minnesota, we have all these people that came from a very, we would say, inhospitable climate in Northern Europe, came to an inhospitable climate here where cooperation and consensus, the Minnesota consensus, is very important for survival. That consensus is more important than criticism. In fact, critics, like your host, Professor Penn, are identified and removed from the culture because survival is what drives the culture forward. Except there's one problem with this.
Hmm.
We're not really living in the natural environment, most of us.
No.
Most of us are living down here in the cities, and we're going to do some study of the demographics of Minnesota coming up here on a future podcast. So we have this survival orientated culture where consensus drives behavior, but we're not really facing the same survival pressures. And what that does is it creates political uniformity. That's what HotDish Hot Takes is all about. Man or woman, you know, beast or fowl, I don't know what this person is, because he or she does not have the courage to step up to the mic. And I'm not talking about stepping up in reality, I'm talking about stepping up digitally,
Yeah.
which makes me think, Hot Dish, that you're a man. Because why would you not step up acting as a woman if you're a man? I mean, I just don't get you. So you didn't have the courage to step up, but you're spouting this consensus rhetoric. And of course, Royce White is not part of the consensus. He's a critic of the status quo. Well, here in Minnesota, this beautiful state with this great population of hardworking people, as Representative Wiener just said, we have a lot of hardworking people in Minnesota. I'm one of them. This great state has this consensus, and it's been sliding to the left my entire life. It's been on the slide. Slide to the left. Slide to the left. Slide, because we don't want to argue about it. We don't want to argue with our neighbors. Hey, if my neighbor wants to, support transgenderism, for example, why would I have any comment on what my neighbor does with their children? It's none of my business after all. It really is none of my business after all.
Yeah.
So we have all these issues. If my neighbor says there needs to be gun control, and they politically organize. I don't wanna really fight that. I mean, I just wanna just get along. I just wanna make everything work. I want everything to be okay. Okay. I wanna have a great state, and I do. I do wanna have a great state, but we've slid so far to the left here in the Republican Party of Minnesota that I can't even recognize republicanism. You know, we just had a thing I just went through a thing with Stan Hamilton, who's the leader of CD3 who beat me in that last election. He showed up, from my perspective, uninvited at this meeting I had, but I don't dislike Stan, and, there's no hiding in politics. And Stan reached out to me, and he started talking about omnibus bills, something that goes on from the feds to the state house, where they pack these bills with all kinds of different issues. And they're 1,000-page bills, and nobody could, even the people that are elected to represent us don't read the bills because, it's a lot of reading, and it's written in legalese. And Stan comes to me and goes, these omnibus bills are illegal under the under the Minnesota Constitution. And in fact, the some court in Minnesota, I don't think it was the Supreme Court, some court just ruled that one portion of the last omnibus bill was illegal because it was in an omnibus bill. Excuse me,
Say that 5 times, it doesn't sound like a word anymore.
omnibus. It's not a word. It's what is it? Is it a woozy, a wuzzy? I don't get it. But it's not supposed to be. And it is being so that we can't control or have any uh, feedback with our elected representatives. And they pack these omnibus bills with so much BS, it's mind boggling. But here in Minnesota, there's no revolt over it. There's no revolt. There could be a revolt. I don't mean, charge the Capitol. I mean a political revolt. Republicans, where are you? Why are we tolerating this? Well, it's how we do things.
They're just hard workers. I think it's Mike Weiner's point that a lot of these people, they do wanna change, but, "Hey, I got work tomorrow, what can I do?" You know?
Yeah, I got
I
to
mean,
get.
maybe it's that. Like, I agree with you, like, I wish that we could stand up, but I think a lot of those people that they're just stuck with, "I gotta put food on the table."
Let's keep everybody poor, and then
Yeah.
everybody's scratching for a nut. There's no time to oppose the status quo. The real thing here that I'm trying to say is for Hot Dish, this is status quo is really disfavorable for more and more people all the time. And I look at the criticisms, and I'm going to just talk about Royce just for a second. There's these criticisms about him that come out of this very beautiful state and its people, its hardworking people, like Royce swears. Uh, okay. I understand some people don't like to swear, but if we're going to tolerate my next door neighbor uh, having a transgender kid, can we tolerate a little swearing? Seems not that big a deal
Yeah.
in comparison,
Yeah.
right? So we don't tolerate swearing. Well, because it indicates some kind of anti-religious perspective? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It indicates class. Swearing is not an anti-religious presentation. It says, I come from the lower class. I identify with the lower class people. I'll give you blast. My father swore like a sailor. He was a professor at the University of Minnesota for 50 years. My mother used to always say to him in French, votre langage, Bisha. And then I heard all that swearing growing up, so I like to swear. Why did my father do that? Because he was a very educated man, and he was certainly not from the lower class. He was not from the lower economic class. He was he was from, the elite class. He did it to relate to people. He did it to relate to people. He didn't grow up amongst swearing people because he grew up in a very religious environment. But he wanted to relate to his students, and he wanted to teach students that came from lower class backgrounds because he believed education was the way to liberate people from the status quo. So when I hear Roy swear, it doesn't really bother me because I swear myself. I just don't do it on the podcast. And Tanner is nice enough the few times I do to bail me out. But the criticism of swearing, it's really a cover for other issues that Royce talks about. Then they talk about his familial life. Well, let me just tell you, I got problems. I got ex-wives, not wife, got two ex-wives. I've had my time with the family court system. Man, this is a problem in the status quo, this family court system. Very, very unfair to me. I'm just going to say to me. And the state has involved itself in the private lives of people because marriage is a contract. Children are numbered, and there's a huge industry around this. I mean, I don't know how much good the family court system does or doesn't do. I'm not here to comment on its efficacy or its outcomes. I'm just saying it's certainly involved in the private lives of people so that people don't have private lives. I'm not going to ask you to talk about it,
Hmm.
but you have some insight into what I'm saying. Do you not?
Yeah, I was in family court for 3 years.
How'd that work? You want to talk about it a
Yeah,
little
I'll
bit?
talk about it.
Go
It
ahead.
definitely is unfair. I went to family court when my daughter was only 3 months. And so for me, it was a situation that family court definitely did help because I needed somebody to come and strong arm mom and tell her how it's supposed to be. But it took 3 years because the whole court case was essentially allegations being thrown at me with no evidence, and besides just trying to figure out what's best for the kid, it was a couple years of me proving to the courts that I could be a father, even though it was my first kid,
And I
4-month
have to
old.
say, as a outside observer, you seem to be a very dedicated father.
Yeah.
And
Well, I appreciate that. That's all I care about,
I
really.
didn't say you were a good father. I said you're dedicated.
We try
Being
our best.
dedicated is the first step. I was a very dedicated and very good father, and I have ruptures with my kids because of my ex-wives and how they talk about me. And if you're a adult and you haven't had these problems, God bless you, and I'm so happy for you. I mean, really, if you have been able to avoid the pain that I suffer, that's great. You have other pains. We're not going to go into it today, but if we're old enough, we know the deal. It's not easy to be a man. In fact, there's an old saying, men live lives of quiet desperation. And if you're a man and you're a little bit long in the tooth, I'll say it again because you're going to relate to it. Men live lives of quiet desperation. So Royce is criticized. Um, I have 5 children with 2 wives, and I got a stepson. Okay, nobody criticizes me for that. I guess that's because 'cause I'm white. I'm gonna make it very simple for you, hot dish. Nobody's ever walked up to me and said, I'm a bad person because I have, family court issues, divorces. No, I've never heard that. And I struggle to pay and struggle to do, and I'm impoverished because of what I've done. I live a life of quiet desperation in that one area, but you know what I believe? That I'll receive. And as a prelude to the next part of our um, podcast, I want to read something, and I'm going to read this over and over because one of the things that I'm doing is I'm training myself, and it may not be for you. I mean, we're all training ourselves to do something. Some of us are training ourselves to have heart attacks. I mean, it's what you do every day. Your habits become your character, and your character is your destiny. And so I'm training myself because I want to have a destiny where I am actually effectively accomplishing goals that are set. And here's how I'm going to do it. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near to you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked, because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. It's not about being perfect. It's about embracing our imperfection. Could you please play number 1?
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters had rejected him. He is a coward. A real man wouldn't lie to his supporters. He lost his election, and he lost big. I know it, he knows it, and deep down, I think most Republicans know it. Lynn and I are so proud of Liz for standing up for the truth, doing what's right, honoring her oath to the Constitution, when so many in our party are too scared to do so. Liz is fearless. She never backs down from a fight. There is nothing more important she will ever do than lead the effort to make sure Donald Trump is never again near the Oval Office. And she will succeed. I am Dick Cheney. I proudly voted for my daughter. I hope you will too.
I'm Liz Cheney, and I approve this message.
Well, in my opinion, this is the HotDish Hot Takes Republican Party. And there is, in my opinion, just knowing the terrain, a lot of MAGA hat wearing Republicans here in Minnesota that just can't wait to get back to the kind of Adam Schwartzy, Nikki Haley politics that they truly love, because that's that consensus politics. Donald Trump is an outsider. An outsider. Love him, hate him, right, wrong, or indifferent. This man is overturning the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. And that's what, our consensus Republicans here in Minnesota want to make sure continues, because it's an economic organization that benefits the few at the expense of the many. And that's why they always said the Republican Party was a silk stocking party that represented the interests of the wealthy. Well, well, well. Turns out both parties, the Uni Party, represent the interests of the wealthy. Donald Trump, wealthy as he is, would be called a class traitor, just like Franklin Roosevelt was called a class traitor, because this guy is out there wrecking their system. He's wrecking it. He's taking a wrecking ball to it every single day. Gets up in the morning, alarm clock rings, he goes, okay, how am I going to screw up their plans today? That's what he's doing. And then here in Minnesota, they look at Royce White as a candidate. They go, oh, he's not electable. That's BS. He is very electable. And when is he going to get elected? It's when enough Minnesotans have had enough of this charade that Hot Dish wants to see continue. Hot Dish doesn't care about medical freedom. Hot Dish is not interested in all those issues. She's a Dick Cheney Republican, a Nikki Haley Republican. Like, Representative Robbins, who at least had the courage to say she supported Nikki Haley. Who are these people? Now, I'm going to tell you We can have different opinions, I get it. But really, it's coming down to one issue: empire. You live in an empire. I live in an empire. No different than the Roman Empire, the British Empire, and now it's what Putin calls the Anglo-Saxon Empire. We are not living in a republic. We're living in an empire. And we're either going to continue to walk down this road to where all empires end, or we're going to withdraw or strategically redeploy, which is another nice way of saying it, so that we can maintain our republic and the freedoms that are granted to us in our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, which we're going to talk about if we have time at the end of this podcast. No, Dick Cheney hates Donald Trump, and he lost that one, didn't he? He guaranteed something and he couldn't deliver. And that's just what's going on here in Minnesota. These people are working overtime to get it back into the center of the road. They want it in the center of the road. What's the difference between Joe Frazier and Adam Schwartzy? Nothing. They're the same guy. Adam's just a better actor, and from my perspective, a better liar. Yes, I said it, a better liar. And if you listen to him, listen to his tapes, and you have feelings. See, because in the world of the digital, people have lost their feelings. I can feel lies. I can see them. I actually can see them. Can you see and feel when people are lying to you?
Yeah, I feel well, it gets hard. I can feel it, but at this point, I'm going crazy because I feel like I'm lied to all the time. So now I'm starting to think that I'm the crazy one,
You're just numb.
just numb to it.
And then what happens is you become comfortably numb.
Yeah.
I think Pink Floyd sang about that 30 years ago. Maybe it was 40 years ago. See, some people have saw this come. What's the name of that guy that was the lead singer in Pink Floyd?
I don't know.
Why
I
don't
would
you
not
look it
know.
up? I think his last name is Waters. And he is a staunch critic of Israel, which means he's a staunch critic of empire because Israel is an outpost of the empire.
It looks like there's three. It's David Gilmour, Sid Barrett, and Roger Waters.
Roger Waters. Roger Waters is very active uh, in trying to deconstruct empire and to bring to our attention what happens when empire runs amok. What happens to regular everyday people? Because empire doesn't have time for human rights, civil rights. Doesn't have time for that because it's an empire after all. And he was singing about this, people getting comfortably numb, singing about it when I was a teenager, I think. And here we got Dick Cheney, former vice president under George W., another empire builder, um, talking about Trump is a coward. President Trump met with President Putin this last Friday, as you know, and he met with President Zelensky and a host of European leaders just yesterday. I'm not going to get into the particulars of the peace process because whatever they're telling me on the news is propaganda. But it does seem to me as if there is a process underway that could culminate in the end of this awful war in Europe, which frankly has gone on since 1914. I hope President Trump brings an end to this European war permanently. And see what's different about Trump as compared with the rest of these L7 Republicans living in the box, you know, living in the box of survival culture. What's different about Trump is this dude is out of the box. Now, some people say he's the jack in the box. I'm just saying he's not playing by the rules that people think he should be playing by. So I get these people on X that say he's not a serious person. Man, Tanner, do you see this picture that's under this section, under the News That Matters of Trump putting his finger into Vladimir Putin's chest? Can you pop that one up there? That looks pretty serious to me. Does that look serious to you?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be poking a world leader's chest.
Oh, man, who's got the courage to do that? And Dick Cheney's saying he's a coward. Man, please play number 2, and let's look at the pushback against President Trump in real time from this week.
Now, let's bring in Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire. She's a ranking member of the Foreign Relations Committee, the senior member of the Armed Services Committee. The senator led a bipartisan group of lawmakers to Kyiv back in February and continues to push for sustained congressional support for Ukraine. And Senator, you have been a stalwart for the people of Ukraine and for their sovereignty against this attack from Russia. Tell me, what does President Trump need to get out of this first meeting and ultimately out of Vladimir Putin for this summit and this ceasefire, if it does in fact ever materialize, for it to be a success in your mind?
Well, as you all have said so well, the president has sent very mixed messages about the war in Ukraine, about how tough he's going to be on Vladimir Putin. His track record is not good. I think if the president doesn't act, if we don't see a ceasefire coming out of this summit, then Congress needs to act, and Congress will act. There is strong bipartisan support for the Graham-Blumenthal bill to put in massive sanctions on those people who are helping Russia run its war machine on
Can you
China.
stop that for a second? We've talked about this. This is Senator Shaheen, Democrat from New Hampshire. Putin said that if President Trump had been the president in 2020, this war would have never happened. In other words, he squarely places the blame for this war on Biden, Harris, and the Democrat Party because they're aligned with the globalists. And you know what Shaheen is talking about is this sanctions bill, the Graham, that is the Lindsey Graham, alleged Republican, and the Dick Blumenthal, senator from Connecticut, alleged Democrat, two unipartyist hacks of the highest order who have created legislation that are going to put tremendous what's called secondary sanctions, as Shaheen said, Senator Shaheen said, on those countries that are supporting Russia, destroying the world economy and certainly triggering the next world war. And why do I say that? Because they've done this before. This same party, the Democrats, imposed sanctions on Japan just before Pearl Harbor was attacked. Hey, you know, if you back a chipmunk into a corner, Tanner, a chipmunk, what's it going to do?
You're going to fight you.
A chipmunk.
Yeah.
Okay. They're backing India and China and Russia and all the associated countries that are aligned in some degree with that bloc into a corner. They're willing to do that. They're actually bragging about creating a world war. What are you going to do about it? You got to go organize your neighborhood. We got to get rid of these people. Let's continue.
And did put sanctions on India in a way that was positive, but so far he's put no new sanctions on Russia. He's done nothing against China, which is really allowing Russia to operate its war machine. So we need to see something positive come out of the summit.
So tell me, we've been talking about it this morning. Talk about the history of American presidents being duped by Vladimir Putin. George W. Bush saying that he looked into his eyes, saw his soul. And a few years later, we had the invasion of Georgia. And then the same thing happened with Barack Obama talking about a reset and being caught on a hot mic whispering to Medvedev, hey, we can do a lot more after the election. Well, after the election, Vladimir Putin, of course, invaded Ukraine, took Crimea. And then, of course, President Trump's Helsinki summit. What is it about Vladimir Putin that seems to get the best of Republicans and Democrats alike? And how do we break that cycle in 2025?
Well, Vladimir Putin is a former KGB agent. He is trained and skilled in manipulating people, and that's what he does consistently. And why our presidents don't understand that is beyond me. What Vladimir Putin understands is strength and pressure, and that's what we need to be doing in Ukraine. We need to provide the Ukrainians with more weapons and more support, and we need to put sanctions on Russia and on those countries that are allowing Russia to continue this unprovoked war.
Stop. Stop. Unprovoked war. This is the narrative. You know, I mean, you're here on the Professor Penn podcast. Maybe you're new. Maybe you listen to MSNBC. I listen to it. Maybe you watch CNN. Maybe you watch Fox News. Uh, these are narratives. And this narrative that this was an unprovoked war is the prevailing, still to this moment, the prevailing sentiment. Because, of course, the anti-Russian sentiment goes back to the Cold War. So we have this view of Russia here in the United States, here in our neighborhoods. That's not very favorable. But if you're just a little bit older, did you know that the United States and Russia were allies in World War II?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know who really defeated the Nazis?
The Russians.
The Russians.
Yeah.
That's correct. So they're not always opposed to the United States of America. And this narrative that Putin is super manipulative because he's a KGB agent, hey, you don't have to be KGB to be manipulative. You just need to be a human being that likes to manipulate, like Senator Shaheen, because she's touting a narrative, the unprovoked war. No, it's not an unprovoked war. Now, there's lists of all the times Russia has attacked other countries going back 100 years. And there's a lot of attacks, a lot of war. But there's a lot of wars where the West attacked Russia. This is not unprovoked. This is just the next chapter in hundreds of years of bloodshed. So here's Senator Shaheen's conclusion. If something really positive doesn't come out of these negotiations, let's blow the world up by sanctioning everybody's economy so that there's nothing else for anybody to do but become a chipmunk. We should call it the Graham Blumenthal Chipmunk Bill,
Yeah.
because they're going to back everybody into a corner where the only thing they can do is come out fighting. I have an alternative idea. How about if nothing comes out of this? The United States of America withdraws from Europe, withdraws from NATO, focuses on our own well-being, our own four freedoms that we talked about: economic freedom, religious freedom, food freedom, medical freedom, strengthening our own domestic well-being, the politics of well-being, and let these people have at it. Let them have at it. I mean, if they really don't want to bring this to an end, why does Senator Shaheen want one of my children or all my children to die over the Ukraine, where I come from? That's where my family comes from. I have no love of that place. If it was so good, I'd be born. Hey, if the Ukraine was so cool, I'd be in the war.
Mm.
But my grandfather had the good sense to boogie the hell out of there, because these folks are not right in the head. If it was good, we'd still be there. I'd be speaking Russian. No, he left because this is filled with corruption, filled with violence, filled with hatred. And let's hope President Trump can create the conditions where these people can sit down and bring this to an end. But we've got two visions if it doesn't work. Obviously, if there's peace, it's great, right?
Yeah.
Then President Trump's going to move on to the Middle East and try to solve that Gordian knot. But if there's no peace here, there's two visions. One, Senator Shaheen's vision, where the military-industrial complex flexes and forces everybody into becoming a chipmunk, or we just withdraw and let the chipmunks run free. You know, will the chipmunk attack you in the forest if you let it be?
No.
There's no chipmunk attacks, right?
Yeah, none.
You got to corner it, and then it'll bite your hand off.
Yeah.
Right. See, it's just, basic behavior, basic biological systems behavior. These people think we're an empire and they have the right and the responsibility to intervene. And if that takes away all of my human rights, all of my freedoms, hey, so be it. If it kills me in a nuclear war, so be it, because it's so important to keep Putin at bay. Hey, Putin's not threatening Minnesota. No threat here. No threat at all to my interests, to my strategic interests. The only threat I see is the money that's getting spent fighting this war. So Secretary or Vice President Vance jumped up and said, right when this negotiations was going on, I love this quote. He says, "We're done funding the Ukraine war." That's a quote. We're done. Vice President J.D. Vance stated this past Sunday that Washington will no longer directly fund the purchase of weapons for Ukraine amid the seemingly never-ending war with Russia, and expressed hope that Europe would step up. Quote, "We're done with the funding of the Ukraine war business. We want to bring about a peaceful settlement to this thing," Vance told Fox News. Americans, I think, are sick of continuing to send their money, their tax dollars, of this particular conflict. But if the Europeans want to step up and actually buy weapons from American producers, hey, we're okay with that, but we're not going to fund it ourselves anymore. In other words, we're not taking crack, but if you want to buy it, we're okay with it. We didn't get out of the crack business after all. We're still selling crack. We're just not addicts. You got to start someplace. Maybe we'll wake up sometime as a culture sometime soon and say, why are we in the war business at all? Why do we believe that we have to be in the war business at all? Maybe we just need a good self-defense. Good self-defense. Self-preservation, self-defense. No, our military right now is what you would call offensive. We are offensive around this world. Here's a pipe of peace. Australia is just the next U.S. ally pledging to recognize Palestinian statehood at the upcoming session of the United Nations. They've joined many other countries that are going to want to bring about the two-state solution. Boy, there's a lot of Republicans in Minnesota that don't like that idea. Because, after all, we're a pro-Israel party. Every time we have a get-together, the Republican Jewish Committee runs their representative out there, and we pass another resolution supporting Israel, as if the Minnesota Republican Party has any impact on that at all. You know why they passed those resolutions? They passed those resolutions to make sure that no young people ever join the Republican Party. Tanner, are young people in support of Israel?
No.
Are they?
None of the people I know, at least.
How about on TikTok and the places that you go for social media, that the entertainment is aimed at your age cohort? Is there great support for Israel out there?
No, and it's been almost funny because I've been seeing these paid for ads that they're trying. It's like Stop the Hate, and it's something about Israel, trying to stop anti-Semitism. And when you open up the comments, you can see the general consensus of people like slyly putting in there, like, "Yep, I will follow you. This is great, great idea." Like it's all sarcasm. The general consensus for my cohort is we don't give a damn about what Israel is doing. We don't care. We just want to leave them alone now.
And so the Republican Party of Minnesota, knowing that that is how your cohort, the most important people in the society, the young people. See, if you're like 462 years old, the average age of a Republican Party participant, like me, long in the tooth, the most important people we got to get in the party is young people, because that's the future of the party. Yet every time we get together, we pass another resolution supporting Israel. And guess what? The young people, hey, they're going to go be with the communists. Good work. Good work. And that's why we have the Minnesota consensus.
Mm.
Because, some power is better than no power. So we're going to take whatever scraps the communists leave for us. Because after all, one step up from politics, the people that run the bit, they don't care about that. They just care about continuing to make economic brink on the fight where we keep backing and forth on this, fighting one amongst another, instead of uniting to create a well-being society. They love it. They love this fight. Let them go. In other words, the people that are really in charge are happy to let us duke it out. Perfectly happy. Their particular perspective is, our name is Paul, and it's between y'all. But if we say that about the Ukrainians and the Russians and the Europeans, oh no, that's not good. We have to intervene for democracy. And we're not even a democracy. We're a republic. The thing, we just talked about that on the last podcast about President Lincoln.
Yeah.
Right?
I will give credit to Dick Cheney. He said republic. I was surprised in that
He's from
video.
Wyoming. He's got to be careful. Had the cowboy hat. Doesn't he look like a cowboy hat wearing motherfucker?
Yeah, I could see that.
Anyhow, the Egyptians are training Palestinian forces to govern post-war Gaza. Boy, I wonder who's financing that effort. Meantime, a little bit more interesting Middle East news. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he now backs the concept of Greater Israel. Do you know what Greater Israel is?
Is that expanding the territory?
Tremendously.
How much?
Like most of Jordan, 2/3 of Syria, and a big part of northern Egypt. Why not? You know,
Oh my gosh, they're cracking off right now. So
they are.
they start making, what do they call them? Humanitarian cities or little
Little
encampments?
concentration camps called
Yeah.
humanitarian cities. They're going to sacrifice the red heifers soon. Everybody needs to get
I
hip
think
on
they
the
already
red heifer.
did. I think, oh my gosh, I just saw, or I was just reading on it at least, that
I don't think they've done it yet.
Okay, we'll keep our eyes on that. But I did just hear
Something we can talk about downstream. Lindsey Graham, always in the news. To Israel, quote, enough already. Destroy Hamas, just as we did to the Germans and the Japanese. Wow, that's nice of him. Lindsey Graham has called on Israel to finish the job, saying the Palestinian militant group must be annihilated. Quote, I can't believe there's even a debate about how to conduct a war against those who aim to wipe out the Israeli people. Graham said during an appearance on CBS News Meet the Press. He added, Israel will take Gaza by force unless the hostages are freed. Well, okay, Lindsey. Part of the Greater Israel evangelical support. I don't know what to say. That's why we got to talk amongst ourselves here. We hate ourselves so much and hate each other so much, we can't even cooperate. We can't even cooperate for our own well-being because we got different factions here in the United States, in the two parties, and between the two parties, we can't even get it together. For medical freedom, economic freedom, religious freedom, these freedoms, health freedom, no, we just don't, we just can't get it together. We'd rather fight with each other than unite, real unity. And this Israel issue it's the linchpin because this is the one where, well, let's put it this way, to empire or to not empire. It's kind of Shakespearean in a kind of weird way, to be or not to be, to empire or to not empire. That's what we have to decide. And boy, we don't want the Jews to all get slaughtered, so I guess we're going to empire.
I'm just at the point. I'm so sick of empire. I just don't even understand how anybody thought it was a good idea. It is basic. I don't even know the word for it, but like what goes up has to come down. And the whole idea of empire is just to keep going up. How in the world did anybody ever think that that would work? It's
These
just
are,
wild.
you want to know how? These people don't believe in God. It's the Tower of Babel.
I kind of almost think like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to sound crazy here, but this is the whole point of the banking system set up the way that it is, because in the end, once the empire collapses, those elite people have the actual, the land, they have the actual assets, the minerals, whatever. They have the stuff to actually survive. So they don't really care what the smaller people, if we all died and it was just the elites left, they're chilling. They don't care if the empire collapses just as long
They
as
need
they
to think
walk away.
They need to think twice about how this is going to work out. But right now, hubris, you're right.
Yeah, I think that's what's in their mind, is that they don't care if this empire collapses, because there's a point that once you have the empire successful, you are in control of all the stuff that you need, that you don't care if it goes away.
Remember the last podcast we played George C. Scott, Dr. Strangelove with Peter Sellers,
Yeah.
talking about the mine shaft gap?
Yeah.
We don't have a mine shaft gap. We have a monopoly on mine shafts here in the United States.
Yeah.
Our elites are going to be kicking it. And you and me, hey, what we going to be doing? Whoa. Road warrior, baby. I hope you're down for that. It can only hurt so long.
Mm.
That's your compensation. I mean, it hurts, but it comes to an end quickly. You talk about the end of empire? The Iranians are down on it. They arrested 20,000 people last week on allegations of espionage. 20,000.
How do you conduct that kind of that's crazy, arresting that many people?
You conduct it brutally.
Uh,
Like, uh, we have
wha
a suspicion that your third cousin once removed was working for the Israelis, so we're clipping you out too. That's very mafia.
Okay, so we're talking just executions.
Yeah, they rounded up 20,000 people. They're going to kill them.
Oh my gosh.
Meanwhile, the United States and the Gulf states have tied the funds for Lebanon reconstruction because, of course, the Israelis just trashed Lebanon. They tied the funds to the total disarmament of Hezbollah. Ha, ha, ha. In other words, they're not going to be rebuilding Lebanon anytime soon. Just to ruin your night a little bit, and if you're in the international audience, you're going to know all about this. In the United States, Pakistan's army chief, who we've spoken about before, General Asim Munir, attended a farewell function for the chief of the U.S. Central Command, General Michael Kurilla. And boy, he had a lot to say. Here's what he had to say. Here's a quote. You'll like this. As if we don't have enough problems, listen to the Pakistanis. Quote, we are a nuclear power. Speaking of the road warrior time, when the fur flies, we are a nuclear power. If we go down, we'll take half the world with us. Isn't that nice?
That's beautiful.
Isn't that special? Thank you. Thank you so much, General Army Chief of Staff Asim Munir, letting us know that he doesn't plan on dying alone along this warlike continuum, but this is close to home. This is very interesting. The Trump administration is preparing for a large force projection across Latin America and the Caribbean theater. U.S. Southern Command, SOUTHCOM, will deploy 4,000 Marines and sailors to counter narco-terrorist cartels. I guess who controls the drug trade is getting to be very important. The move aims to enhance hemispheric defense and deter or limit Chinese activity in the region, particularly around critical infrastructure and trade choke points. There seems to be a relationship between the drug trade and the Chinese in the minds of the Trump administration. The Mexican government is screaming that this is not going to be okay, yet when nobody was looking, they rounded up 26 of their top drug cartel leaders and extradited them to the United States. Lots going on, isn't it? It's all war, 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 except the effort President Trump is making for peace. And so for all the Trump haters out there, and you have your own profound reasons for hating President Trump, could we give peace a chance, please? You know, you leftists, hey, John Lennon, just give peace a chance. Let's just give peace a chance. I mean, it's not a Democrat or Republican thing. Let's just give peace a chance. He's in the chair. Let's see if he can get something done. Give him a little space. Reciprocal tariffs are now imposed. And there's all this talk about inflation. There is leftover inflation from the so-called Inflation Reduction Act under, this is great, isn't it? The Inflation Reduction Act under President Biden is exactly what caused the inflation. Double speak to the max, kind of like war is peace. Yeah, there is inflation still banging around in our culture, in our society, in our country because of the money supply. The money supply is expanding all the time because we keep borrowing money because nobody wants to cut spending. So what President Trump has done is he has imposed these reciprocal tariffs to raise new revenue to try to balance the budget. And if we balance the budget, the inflation will end. But when you put on tariffs, you're going to get two spikes in price resetting. One we just had, which they're reporting now. They're calling it inflation. And it is, inflation because prices are higher. And there's going to be another one in November and December. And then this tariff income is going to pour in, and we're going to have a balanced budget or very close to a balanced budget, or we might even pay the debt down over 10 years. Who knows? But guess what? There's a court challenge. A federal circuit appeals court has heard arguments questioning the tariff's legality. And if this court rules that these tariffs are not within the bounds of presidential authority and strikes them down, or if through some series of legal processes, these tariffs are ruled invalid, illegal, unconstitutional, oh boy, we got trouble at River City because the uh, outgo exceeds the income by about $2 trillion a year, maybe $1.5 trillion. So the only way out of this mess, based on the composition of our current political class, is revenue enhancement. In other words, we're getting taxed. Now, it would be great to cut spending. And I look at all these leftists criticizing President Trump and how terrible, like Amy Klobuchar. Oh, these tariffs are so hard on American families. Man, these people are just taking everything from us and they just think we're stupid. And I'm talking about sophisticated people also. I don't find Amy Klobuchar to be very sophisticated because she's kind of a hot dish, hot takes person.
Yeah.
Hot dish. Hot dish Amy, right?
Yeah.
I bet this hot dish, hot takes voted for her. If I
I
had a
bet
bet,
it is Amy. It's Amy behind a cell phone, I bet.
could be. Could be Michael Broadcorp too. I don't know. Somebody's on somebody's payroll. But, the lack of creativity and the lack of self-reflection, these people living in this L7 box of the status quo, as if we can borrow money forever and it's okay. It's not okay. The economy is going to collapse. Like you said, we're going to lose everything that we don't have very much left.
No.
You know what the status quo is too? Like in the Republican Party, it's all these people, like the party chair, Alex Plekish, lives in a $3 million house over here by the lake. They actually think they got some money. That's not money. That's not money. That's the illusion of having money. You're bought off with a little bit of money. You start getting, I don't know, 10, $15 billion. That's money. But this kind of money that the Republican Party in Minnesota is the status quo people. I mean, you guys are really not running the show. They just let you think that you were. And that's what it is to be in that L7. You're not thinking creatively. You're not thinking out of the box. Look at how the people are living in downtown Minneapolis, because that's how we're going to be living out here in the suburbs. Isn't it obvious? Isn't it obvious that if you degrade the currency to the point where it collapses, everybody loses everything? And here's Trump trying to raise revenue to forestall that. And we're talking about every family is going to pay $3,000 more a year. Yeah, $37 trillion in debt. Who wants to go first with the spending reduction proposal? What are we going to reduce? Well, I got a simple one. How about we make people healthier? Food freedom and medical freedom, so they don't consume as much medical services. That'd save, I don't know, $500 billion a year. Might take 20 years to get there, but we got to start with your daughter's age people.
Mhm.
We got to teach them simple things like, I don't know, take a walk. There's a good one. Get some sleep. There's a good one. Simple things. Culture used to teach us those things, but now we got a new culture.
New culture.
New culture. Was it you who set up? Were you talking about the pace of technological change, or was it me?
I think we've both been talking about that because I brought up the Unabomber's manifesto.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
I thought so. The pace of technological change is so great, culture can't keep up with it. Ooh, that's a problem. That's a problem. Man, I love to eat fat. I love fat. I love butter. I like to eat. I like to eat a lot of food. Yeah, of course you do. And you know why? Because Grandpa was a farmer. You know what you're doing? You're sitting at a computer screen all day. If you eat like Grandpa, it's not going to work out so well for you. But
Yeah.
nobody alters the way we eat. I mean, the information's out there. The information is there, but you got to study. You got to be educated. Why do you have to find it on your own? Why don't they teach your daughter that in preschool? They could.
Yeah, they could,
Well,
but
the much reviled Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert Kennedy Jr., is using his platform to talk about cultural changes relative to enhancing human well-being. Let's embrace it. Let's embrace it. I digress. It's very clear President Trump was not lying. These tariffs are being offset by reductions in pricing from the offshore manufacturers who sell into the United States. It's obvious that you can just see it in the data. And here's a nice one. The Japanese automakers who are offsetting a 15% tax are losing $20 million a day trying to maintain their market share.
Hmm.
So the United States is collecting 15% every time one of us goes and buys a Toyota or a Honda. Right off the top. They don't have to stock the cars. They don't have to build the cars. They don't have to have the dealership. They don't do nothing. They just pick up 15 points on the easy. Pays down the debt, pays down the deficit. These things are important. If you truly want to take care of the American families, for example, Senator Klobuchar, propose spending cuts. What do you want to cut first? Tell me. Because, if we went to an all-peace perspective and dialed in the empire, we could cut our defense budget by $500 billion a year. If we enhance the health of our citizens, we could cut our medical expenditure by $500 billion a year. That's $1 trillion. Oh, we're there. Voila. Just like that. Now, who in the Republican Party, and President Trump, remember President Trump talked about cutting the defense budget by 50%?
yeah.
He talked about it.
Yep.
Don't hear much about it these days, though, do we?
Mm-mm.
No. Adam Schwartzy, are you for cutting the defense budget by 50%? Reeling in the empire? Because you talk about your America firster when it comes to military matters. You want to cut the defense budget by 50%? Like $500 billion. Put it into the people. You good for that? Are you good for that? Because if you're good for that, if you come up and stand up in front of the crowd and say that, well, I'm going to pay attention to you. Instead of you worked on the Nikki Haley campaign, but you really didn't, and you didn't know what you signed up for. Really? See, that to me is bullshit. So pick a side of the football and play on it. Pick one, Adam Schwartzy running for U.S. Senate. Pick a side of the football, because if you're on the America First side of the football, come out where you stand on Israel. Come out where you stand on all of these issues, like China. Let us know where you stand. What are you going to do in foreign policy as a U.S. Senator that's really America First? Don't just talk it. Let's get down into the weeds of the policy. You hear that silence? That's for all of you that are listening to Adam Schwartzy and think you like him. I'm asking you, where do you stand on these issues? Because we're going to go broke. As Tanner just said, empire has a trajectory. What goes up must come down. So we've had a rocket ride here since 46. You might be alive when it comes up. You'll be alive for sure.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks, doesn't it?
Thing I'm most scared about is I'm going to be alive when all these college graduate chat GPT doctors are going to be the ones taking care of me when I'm older. I get really scared about that.
I was just at the doctor. I took one of my family members in. And I said, "Doctor, what does the literature say about this?" And she said, "I'm not a doctor. I'm a physician's assistant." I thought to myself, great.
Yeah.
I looked at my family member. I said, "This must not be so serious. They don't got the A-team in here." I have so much I can't get to today. And I probably won't ever get to it because we're going to have a guest next Thursday and a guest next Tuesday. So we're just going to plow through all this. And thank you for staying a little bit later with me today. Look at all this news. Man, I can see where you go broadcast all day long.
Yeah.
4 hours. I'm going to blow cover here. I do listen to Alex Jones from time to time. This dude's on 4 hours a day, I think. I know Steve Bannon is on, I think, 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I see how they do it, because how do you get to all of it? So let me just end with this. The EU is um, has a new law across all of its member states. It's called the European Media Freedom Act. The European Media Freedom Act.
Hmm.
Kind of like the Inflation Reduction Act. It's not about media freedom.
I think I heard a little bit of talk about this.
This is an act that allows the European Commission to determine what is trustworthy media. And it will reinforce state broadcasters. So it is making sure that the narrative is L7.
Hmm.
They actually passed a law like that. Now, here in the United States, we have an interesting problem for these folks that want to do this. It's called the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. I'm going to try it again because it's such a beautiful amendment. I want to read it with some style. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's the Bill of Rights. These are amendments to the Constitution. Do you know our Constitution didn't have these amendments? They actually had a fight right afterwards. People are saying, man, we got a government and we elect these people, but what's the difference between a bunch of people we elect and a king if they trample all over our Republican rights to be self-governing?
Hmm.
So there was a fight, a political fight. And right afterwards, right after the Constitution was adopted, these 10 amendments to the Constitution were actually adopted through the constitutional process. The Bill of Rights. It's called the Bill of Rights.
I can already see the angle that America's probably going to go about is they're going to give this little badge of trustworthiness to the media companies that they want to, and they won't give it to other ones, and they'll just slyly say like, "Oh, they still have the freedom of doing their press. We're not taking away any freedom of speech." But then they're going to direct the narrative to believe like these are the trustworthy people and you have to listen to them. These people don't have the badge of acceptance, so like they're not trustworthy.
Repost the links. If you're watching on Royce White's X, please take a minute and repost the link. If you're watching and you got a Facebook page, post a link on your Facebook page, because that's already the way it is. We
Yep.
know we're being shadow banned. We're being shadow banned. And am I that extreme? Am I an extremist? No, I'm not. I'm just not in the L7 box. I'm not saying that that narrative doesn't have validity. There is validity. Putin is a dictator. Russia has taken and done all kinds of attacks and, for hundreds of years. I'm just saying, half the story has never been told. We want to tell the whole story. We want to tell the whole story, not just half the story. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. That's number 2. Number 3, no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in a time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. In other words, they remembered how the British came and just took over people's houses, said, hey, what's mine is mine and what yours is mine. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. I'm taking the fifth. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. We're going to come back to the Bill of Rights. We've got to know our founding documents. We've got to have them. I've got to have them on my heart because there are people in our society like HotDish that will trample all over my freedom to maintain that status quo. Because we live in this beautiful state of 10,000 lakes, and we have a consensus here. Minnesota nice, Minnesota good. We're good here. We're good people. So, hey, you know what? If there's some trampling of human rights, some trampling of civil rights, if there's some racism, if there's some discrimination that goes along with we're such nice people, hey, let's just brush that under the rug and let's just focus on the good because we're such good people. And that's where we live, and that's how it will be until one or two things happen. Empire collapses, or we look in the mirror and start pulling the log out of our own eyes. And on that note, I want to thank you for joining. We have a special guest coming up on Thursday night. It'll be a surprise. I wish you well. If you're new, thank you for joining. I hope we're going to have you coming back. Tanner, thanks so much for being in this morning.
Of course. Have a good night, everybody.